guys, I'm going to call this one building a wall around your standards. A lot of times when we're trying to build our life in our company or yourself to the next level, you find yourself challenging your old standards and the way you used to do things. If you're trying to lose weight, you don't eat as much garbage, that's a new standard. You go for a walk, that's a new standard. If you're trying to fix your shop, you don't tolerate certain behavior, that's a new standard. There's a more sense of urgency, that's a standard. If you're trying to make your finances better, or you want to increase your net worth or your ability to earn, you don't tolerate people who waste time, or you don't waste time yourself, or be sucked into things that don't benefit you in the long term, whether that be financially benefiting you or benefiting you just because you have peace of mind. So you start setting standards, and you set those standards first for yourself. It's very hard to do that as it is. It's difficult changing your life. It's difficult even dealing with yourself, because all of us have this voice of naysayer inside of us, right? And that person is going to be very disappointed in you when you try to change and get better. I've always said it, to get to the next level, you have to kill your current self at this level. And don't you think that person is going to go down without a fight. That person wants to live. It's in the nature of things to live, including personalities. This has actually been very well demonstrated in the field of psychology, that personalities have basically survival instincts, right? They want to live. You go down a whole tangent of that, truthfully, but the reality is, even that voice inside of you wants to live. So it's already very difficult to change. That's why most people don't want to grow, because growth means change, and change is fighting yourself. Okay, so that said, when I say building a wall around your standards, what I mean by that is you make it so difficult for yourself that you don't want to, that if you don't change, it's going to be more difficult for you than if you do change. And guys, I'm going to tell you something very easy, or simple, but not easy. If you ever want to change your life, Tony Robbins says this is not me, and he says if the fastest way to change your life is to change your standards. Right? You just said that. The fastest way to change your life and to improve your life and to make, whether it's money or health, just change what you think is good. That's a standard, right? If you think this is good, make it here. And the next thing you will know, because what a standard is, anything that you will not tolerate under. That's what a standard is. That this is the bare minimum that I will accept. Okay, so, and some of you say, I have really high standards. No, you don't. The standards is whatever is in your life is your standard. And I mean that, if you say something is your standard, but you're not getting that, it's really not your standard. Because subconsciously, you will always go down to your lowest acceptable standard. And that said, the fastest way to changing your standards is to change the people you spend time with. To change the people you call friends, to change the people you call good. Because what happens is there's a part of your brain that's older than your conscious, your prefrontal cortex, the human brain. It's called the limbic system. That's actually a more the next level down, let's just say. The lowest level is your reptilian brain, and then the next is your mammalian brain. And that's what I'm referring to here. See, it's your limbic system, it's your emotional brain. And that part of your brain is actually more in control of you than your prefrontal cortex. Why? Because it's older, it's been more evolved, and it's much more autonomous. And that part of your brain wants to be a part of a company, a part of a people. And whoever you surround yourself, that part of the brain is going to want to belong to that. So they're not going to want to rock the boat. That's human nature. And very few people are very antisocial. 90% of us, we want to be a part of somebody. So if you're part of a group, whether you realize it or not, you're going to want to appease that group. You don't want to stand out as a sore thumb. Why? Because your subconscious brain knows, your limbic system knows that if you stick out too much, then you will not have any friends. Okay, so that said, if you go hang out with people that are not where you want to be in life, then what happens to your subconscious brain is it lowers the minimal accepted standard from what you think is right. And you could sit here and consciously say, well, I want to do this, I want to do this. It will not happen. Because subconsciously, you disagree with that. So the fastest way to changing your standards is you change your subconscious standard, and you do that by getting around people that are at that level. And let me give you a great example of this. You hang around a bunch of really fit people, and if you're not like crazy fit, someone like, not really fit, I'm not crazy fit, I'm fairly fit, but I'm not like, I'm not like six pack all the time fit. And if I were to go hang out with, 5-6 guys that are, or 6-7 guys, that have six packs, what would happen is eventually, maybe after the third or fourth time we're out there, and especially if it was in like by a pool or something, right? You can imagine what would happen. I'd look at myself, I'd look at them, and every time I look at that, a little bit of pain would come into my life. And because I don't want to be at that part of that pain, and on top of that, I want to be friend with my friends, and I want to be the fat guy amongst my friends, sorry to say, I'm going to start eating differently, even without realizing it. Because my identity would be, well, I'm friends with these guys, so therefore I do these things. The identity would shift. When you hang out around wealthy people, your identity shifts. You go, oh, I'm friends with wealthy people, so subconscious mind says, you are one of them. Look, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, some of you rationalize this idea that I can be around certain people because they're fun and they don't affect me. What you're doing is you think that this is in control, and it's not. And I've seen this happen now for a decade, and I've told the story of me being friends with someone for 10 years, and the moment him and I stopped being friends, my income tripled the next year. This is a God-honest, true story. Some of you have had the same exact experience. You have had friends at the moment you always knew they weren't good for you, but the moment you had the courage and the faith to make the decision that I'm done, immediately things changed. And don't deny that. And those of you that are like, I can be friends with people that are not good for me and still be successful. If you end up doing that, please write to me that you end up changing your life and you made tremendous progress without changing your company. I would love to hear from you, because I wanted to test this theory, because I've yet to meet somebody who's done that. If this resonates with you, please let me know. I'm interested in this. I'm genuinely curious, but I have not seen anyone that changed their life without changing their company. You either get rid of people and you end up being alone for a season, or you find better people. Either or better yet, you find people that mentor you. That's the best. And anyway, so that's the fastest way to changing your life, is change the people you hang out with, because when you change the people you hang out with, your standards will change. And when your standards change, your identity changes. Everything else is very easy. The work itself is not the problem, guys. The actions are easy. It's your identity and your standards that are holding you back. And the reason they're holding you back is because you're too nice to just be like, you know what, these people aren't good for me anymore. That means they're not bad. That doesn't mean they're bad people. A lot of people get a little butthurt when I say things like that. Guys, you could have people that are great human beings and they're very sincere. But as Jim Rohn says, don't wear sincerity and truth on the same scales. Those are two very different things. People can be very sincere and loving and kind to you, but they could be sincerely bad for your future. They could be wrong. Their advice could be the thing that you don't need in your future. Okay, so just think about that. And you're much more controlled by your emotional brain than you probably realize if you're doing things like that. You know, I'm very much aware that 90% of my decisions are made on a very deep emotional level, so I don't put myself in environments that can put me in that place, if that makes sense, right? I want to be in a place and I want to be surrounded by people that challenge me emotionally, so then I'm more emotionally driven to go up than I'm driven to go down. And again, I'm a human being just like everyone else. It's okay to fall short, but just be aware so that you consciously set yourself up for success rather than incidentally stumbling upon people that are like, wow, that guy was really cool, that gal was really cool. Yeah, well, guess what? You don't have to. You can do that regularly. You can regularly be inspired if you just get around yourself and you stop hanging out with people that you think genuinely are not going anywhere in life by your own standards. So I hope that helps, guys. Thank you.